Hello and welcome back to the Wasteland, everybody. Welcome back to New Vegas. Today we're going to be taking a look at the humble knife and multiple variants of the knife because I figured this would be better if we just kind of include all of the knives, or at least quote-unquote all of the knives. There's still quite a few other ones that we need to talk about since we haven't talked about the straight razor yet, which I guess you could argue is not a knife. The combat knives and the Bowie knives will not be included in this because they're distinct enough so that they should get their own list in my opinion. But we have plenty of knives to talk about. Let's go over each of these. Our very first one is the simple knife. This is the kitchen knife that you can find all around the Wasteland. And this one is actually not a terrible early game weapon if you find these, because almost every enemy can have these early on, like powder gangers can have them, raiders can have them. You can just find them laying all over the place. It's really common for vendors to sell knives too, and they're super cheap. Knives require 0 melee weapons and only 1 strength to wield, so any character can effectively wield a kitchen knife. I would kind of hope so if it's this early of a weapon. The knife does 8 damage per hit, which is not very high, but it's okay. 24 damage per second. You can actually swing the knife fairly fast, which is kind of good. This one has 8 crit damage, which is the same as its normal damage, so fairly low. 1 times crit modifier, which is fine. That's the base crit chance. Costs 20 action points, which is also okay. It's somewhat low, but with the low damage, it's not incredible. This one weighs 1 weight. And this one has 150 item health. That's actually a pretty decent amount of health for an early game weapon, especially unarmed and melee, where health is more important than necessarily damage for them because you don't want to really be repairing them right away. And they can just last you quite a while to where they'll save you on overall ammo too if you're not going with a dedicated melee or unarmed build, so that way you can save up for some of the guns you might want to use. The knife and all of the variants, except for one of these, actually has the same exact VATS attack, where if you have 50 melee, you can use this VATS attack, and this is backslash. Backslash costs less action points to use, but it does less damage. It's an okay VATS attack. It's nothing special. It doesn't have anything bonus to it, so that's perfectly fine. For the pros of the knife, and a lot of these knives, they're all very lightweight, which is cool. Pack Rat actually helps with them, so they all get cut in half. So their weight is usually like half a weight. Some of them have extra limb damage, which is pretty good. The regular knife doesn't, but some of the other ones do. And some of them have pretty good action points. The regular knife is okay on these two. So if you want to use it in VATS early on, that is pretty good. The major cons to the knives, though, are that they do low damage, and they have low damage per second, and just kind of low stats all the way around, besides the item health being usually pretty decent on these. So they may not be the best choice for everything for a melee or unarmed build in the early game, but they're not a terrible choice, especially if you don't want to break your better melee and unarmed weapons you might get early on, like a baseball bat, a shovel, brass knuckle, spike knuckle, something like that. There are several perks that help out with these. Pack Rat is one of them, where it can cut their weight in half. That's kind of useful. Super Slam to knock down enemies, Slayer to swing faster, Piercing Strike to punch through armor, and Purifier to kill some of the other abomination enemies you're probably not going to be taking on, like a Deathclaw with the knife, although there is an achievement for doing that with the Switchblade, which we're going to talk about here in a second. And that can be kind of useful, especially if you have Super Slam. You can knock them down and just keep stabbing them, and you will win that fight, at least if it's a one-on-one fight. For an overall rating for the regular knife, I think I'd put this one into D tier. It's fine. It's an okay early game weapon. It's not crazy. There's no unique variants of the knife either, which is a little bit strange. But at the same time, you're probably going to ditch this fairly quick into the game. Our second knife is going to be the Switchblade. You can also find this one very early on into the game. Various raiders can have this. You can find it in boxes. Store owners tend to sell it. The Switchblade requires 25 melee, weirdly enough, and 1 strength, so most characters will be able to use this fairly early on, especially a melee or an unarmed character. This one does 7 damage per hit, so it's less than the knife. 14 damage per second, which is also less than the knife, but it does at least attack fairly fast. Has a 2 times crit modifier with 11 crit damage, which is okay. That's a bit better than the regular knife. This one only costs 18 action points to use, so that's actually fairly good for the VATS cost. This one weighs 1 weight, and this one has 100 item HP, which are all fine for the Switchblade. Also, all of these weapons are holdout weapons, as you would kind of expect, so that you can sneak these in. I think you can also sneak all these in without 50 sneak. I'm pretty sure none of them count as improved holdout weapons. Pretty sure they're all just regular holdout weapons, so that does make them kind of useful. The Switchblade is all around just kind of lower statted than the regular knife, but it doesn't really feel that much worse, because it does still attack fairly fast, and does a similar amount of damage. This one can break a little bit quicker, so I'm going to put this one into lower D tier than the regular knife. but I'm not going to put it quite into F tier because it is still kind of useful in the early game, but it's bordering on there. It's definitely not one of the better weapons. After that, we're going to move over to the Dead Money Knives, which are the Cosmic Knife, the Cosmic Knife Clean, and the Cosmic Knife Superheated. So first up, we have the regular Cosmic Knife. This one also requires 0 melee weapons and 1 strength to wield, just like a regular knife. This one does 12 damage, so it's better than a regular knife, 36 damage per second, which is also better. This one has 12 crit damage, so that's kind of okay. 1 times crit modifier, costs 20 action points, weighs 1, has 150 item health. All around, the Cosmic Knife is just an upgrade from the standard knife, which, I mean, that's how they're advertised in the game anyway. These were supposed to be like the cutting edge knives that you see in infomercials, so they're slightly better than regular kitchen knives. This one also has a unique bonus on it where it does 1.5 times extra limb damage, which that is good because in Dead Money, if you have extra limb damage, you can kill the ghost people a little bit easier because you're more likely to rip their limbs off. That's pretty good. The Cosmic Knife is okay. It's a bit better than a regular knife, so I'd put it higher in D tier than the regular knife, but it can't really go much higher than that. If you're going to rush Dead Money, which is an interesting strategy and not one that I would really recommend, then the Cosmic Knife could be useful on a melee or an unarmed build because you don't really have too many options there. But then you have the Bear Trap Fist, which is going to be your best unarmed or melee option there, so you're probably not going to bother with the Cosmic Knife. Next is the Cosmic Knife Cleaned. This can be made on workbenches. You do need to have the requirements so that you can actually clean this, and that's not too difficult to find all the ingredients to do that. This one also requires 0 melee weapons and only 1 strength to wield. This one does 15 damage per hit, so it is better than the regular Cosmic Knife. 45 damage per second, it attacks at the same speed, so it makes sense that it has higher DPS. It has 15 crit damage, so that's a little bit higher. A 1.2 times crit modifier, so you're more likely to hit crits with it a little bit. That's kind of useful. Costs 20 action points to use in VATS. Weighs 1, has 200 item health, so this one is actually quite a bit better, so it's not going to break very fast. As well as this one has 3 times limb damage, which is much better. That's actually really good. That's one of the highest amount of limb damages in the entire game, so you can rip off the ghost people's limbs a little bit easier with this one, so there's no real reason for you to not be using the clean knife over the regular knife. This one also is the only weapon that doesn't have the same VATS attack, where this one is not backslash, but this one has one that's called surgical strike. This one costs a little bit more action points, but it does quite a bit more damage. This one costs 5 more action points to use, but gives you 150% more damage with the knife. That's actually a pretty good improvement, and that makes it so that this weapon is quite a bit stronger. Again, it's still not going to beat out something like the Bear Trap Fist for just overall usefulness, but this is the best of these knives, or one of the best of these knives, and I would move this one up to high C tier. It still has kind of low damage per second, so I'm not going to take it over other melee and unarmed weapons like the Bear Trap Fist in Dead Money, and outside of this, you could just go with something like the Katana, or let's say like the Combat Knife or the Bowie Knife, which are all going to be stronger than this, but at least this one does kind of have a niche in the DLC itself, so that's kind of cool. And then our very last knife is the Cosmic Knife Superheated. This one you need to actually get into the Sierra Madre and get the recipe in there, and then you can make these. These ones require 0 melee weapons and 1 strength to wield effectively. This one does 14 damage per hit, 42 damage per second. Its DPS is actually fairly good. This one does 14 crit damage, same as its regular damage. Has a massive 5 times crit modifier though, so you're basically guaranteed to hit crits assuming that you have decent luck. Costs 20 action points to use in VATS, weighs 1, and has 150 item health. So this one is pretty good. This one also is weird where it has a 1.7 times extra limb damage. Why that is, I don't know. This one can also do fire damage on top of its hits. The weird thing about this, though, is that it's not affected by the Pyromaniac perk for some reason. You would think that the superheated knife would be, like the superheated fists are, but it's not. This one just doesn't get a bonus from Pyromaniac. Kind of a missed opportunity there. I feel like other weapons should have also been affected by Pyromaniac, and this should have been one of them, but it's just not. Making it so this weapon is just a straight upgrade to the regular Cosmic Knife, so I would put this one also into C tier, probably below the clean one, since the clean one has more damage per second, and it also has the better VATS attack, even though this one can hit crits more often. And that'll do it for all of these knives. Again, we still have more knives to talk about with the straight razors, the combat knives, the Bowie knives, but at least this is most of the knives covered in New Vegas. Tell me your thoughts on the Cosmic Knives down in the comments below and all the other knives we covered. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.